Hello BookTube, my name is Kate, this is my channel chaptercviii. This is another video in my Reading as Self-Care series. And in this video we're going to be talking about reading for connection. So many times I've heard people make the joke, my books are my friends, the characters in my books are like my friends, things like that. And you know, at first glance you're like, that's kind of sad. But also so many readers can relate to that sentiment, and so I kind of wanted to know why. Forming connections is so essential to mental health. Those that feel that they don't have any significant connections in their lives are more prone to depression, low self-esteem, or even falling into toxic habits. So let's quickly define what connection means. Connection is defined as a relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. So when reading for connection, you're going to want to look for books that help you feel like you're connected with something outside of yourself. Whether this is your spirituality, your faith, your community, your culture, some part of your identity, whatever it may be, you're going to want to look for books that connect you with something outside of yourself. So now I'm going to talk about 5 books that I read for connection. The first book is Beyond a Darkened Shore by Jessica Leek. There are 2 aspects of this book that made me feel like I was connected. The first is that Jessica Leek is a local author, so I felt like I was connected with someone who appreciates literature and writing and books that's in my actual community. The second thing is that this book has Irish and Norse mythology. I have Irish ancestors, but I didn't grow up with any sort of connection to that culture, so it was nice to kind of read about Irish mythology. As for the Norse side of things, I don't have any Nordic ancestors, but we did go to our honeymoon in Norway, so I mean, if you've never read this book or if you haven't heard of this book, it's a really, really cool combination of Irish and Norse mythology, and it does it in a really cool way. The main character of this book has a way of getting inside the minds of her enemies, like literally, and she's sort of the protector of her family. So when her home is attacked by Vikings, she has to use her gift and whatnot, and then she also meets a strapping young man named Leif. So of course there's like a little bit of romance there, but there's also some really, really cool like powers related to mythology and mythological characters. So I just found that it was like a really neat book, and also I feel like some books that incorporate mythology and like magic sort of have a place where they sort of stop and it's like, okay, we won't go past here because then they'll be too powerful. And this book I feel like didn't do that. It wasn't limited by those kind of expectations, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The second book that I might read for connection is Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This is the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I'm still not finished with this book. I've been working on it for a while. There's so many other books that get in the way. I don't know. But the reason that I might read this for connection is because this is my husband's favorite series. This is not his favorite book in the series, but it is his favorite series. A lot of people say that it's like the best fantasy series, especially like for high fantasy lovers. But I have a really hard time with like the long series. That aside, I do feel like it connects me with my husband some because this is what he likes in literature. And since books are a big part of my life, I like to try my best to also try out the kind of books that he likes. But I'm real slow at it. There's a lot going on in this series, so I have a really hard time, like, sort of summarizing it. But it has a very complex, like, magic system, and there are these gods, and they are sort of meddling with the humans and whatnot. It's interesting, but it's also really hard to describe because there's just so much going on. And, of course, there's, like, political stuff, and there's, like, war and fighting and things like that. But anyway, it's cool. I'm gonna finish it eventually. Let's just move on. The next book is Serafina and the Black Cloak. This is the first book of a middle grade fantasy series. Serafina is the daughter of a mechanic and they live in the Biltmore house. If you don't know, the Biltmore house is like this giant estate made by the Vanderbilts. Is that correct? The Vanderbilts? Big rich family. It's also like an attraction where people go and visit and stuff. A lot of people will go there at Christmas time because they'll have like everything decorated with all these lights, and they'll have, you know, choir singing in the like foyer area. They have a crazy big garden. It's like a really cool, it's a cool place. A lot of people visit around this area. It's like not far from where I live. And I was actually engaged at the Biltmore house in the gardens. So that's another thing that sort of connects me with this book. But what I really, really loved about this book is that the majority of like fantasy books either take place in another world or they take place in like Europe or somewhere really, really far away. There is like nothing magical about where I live. But this book takes place around where I live, and in the woods where I live, and in the mountains that I've seen my entire life. So that was really cool, and it made me feel more connected to where I live, even if it's like not an exciting place. I mean, it's the South, so I mean. But the book itself is so cool, and it has like catamount mythology where like people can transform into cats and stuff, and it's just cool. The next book that I might read for connection is Mornings with Jesus. This is a 365 devotions book, so it's a devotion for every day of the year. When I was in college, this is something that I tried to use often, so it helped me feel connected with my faith. And when I first started dating my now husband, we would actually read these devotions together and we would talk about them because my faith was very important to me when I was, dating and trying to find someone that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So not only did this make me feel more connected with my faith, it also made me feel connected with my husband as well. But I really enjoyed the way that it was set up because every day has like a verse from the Bible and then like a story. And then at the very end it has like some sort of faith step, something to do. And that to do is really just kind of like a question. It's something for you to think about. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it kind of let you sort of apply things to your own life. And that was really helpful to me. And then the last book that I might read for connection is Trial by Fire. The reason that I mentioned this one is because this is the first book that I read with like a close group of friends. This is the favorite book of Sarah from novel Serendipity. And we have like this group of people where we try to read each other's favorite books. I've been slack, but we try to read each other's, favorite books. And in that group, I have Sarah from novel Serendipity, I have Leah from World of Leah Jane, Madison Mary from Paperback Princess, and Jade from Jaded Reader. And we have a Voxer thing, and we'll talk sometimes. And we just try to read each other's, favorite book or favorite book at the time. But this was the first time that I did that, and it just made me feel really connected to Sarah, especially with our live show where we were discussing different aspects of this book and different things that we saw in this book. I thought it was really cool. I'm really bad at buddy reads, but this experience was just really nice. And my booktube friends have become a really, really close part of my life that I did not expect them to become. And so it was awesome to have this experience with them. And those are my 5 books that I read or read for connection. Comment below some of the books that you might read that make you feel connected to something outside of yourself. And if you would like more of this junk, subscribe below. Bye!
Tripping over shadows and I'm drowning.